Who are you, really? Is it the person sitting at a desk, breathing and thinking in the physical world, or is it the profile others see on a glowing screen? In the 21st century, identity is no longer confined to face-to-face interaction. Instead, it has expanded into digital spaces that blur the lines between authenticity and performance. Social media, online communities, and digital platforms allow us to reinvent ourselves endlessly. Yet this raises a profound question. Does the self we create online reflect our true essence? Or is it merely a mask constructed to meet the expectations of others? This is the paradox of the digital self, liberation mixed with alienation, truth woven with illusion. The philosopher Erving Goffman argued in The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life that all human interaction involves performance. Social media has amplified this idea into a daily reality. We now perform ourselves on digital stages to audiences of hundreds, thousands, or even millions. Every post is an act of curation, where we carefully select what to reveal and what to conceal. Unlike spontaneous conversation, digital expression is editable, filterable, and repeatable. The digital persona becomes both a shield and a stage costume, allowing us to control how we are perceived. But does curation enhance authenticity by letting us show our best selves, or does it bury the messy truth of who we really are? Philosophers have long debated whether masks hide or reveal. Kierkegaard suggested that masks can sometimes express truths too painful to reveal directly. Online, anonymity functions like a mask, liberating us to express opinions, identities, and emotions we might otherwise suppress. Yet, this same mask can conceal malice, enabling cruelty without accountability. The paradox is that online anonymity allows for both deeper honesty and greater deception. Is the digital mask a gateway to authenticity or an escape from responsibility? In cyberspace, every keystroke might be a confession or a disguise. Jean Baudrillard argued in Simulacra and Simulation that we now live in a state of hyperreality, where images and representations no longer refer to reality, but replace it entirely. Consider Instagram influencers whose lives are carefully staged. Their followers may know them more through curated posts than through real-world encounters. The digital self becomes a simulation, a version of you that might never exist offline but is treated as more real than the embodied person. In this way, the digital world blurs the distinction between truth and appearance. Are we losing reality itself in the endless reflections of hyperreality, or are we simply evolving into beings who live as much in symbols as in flesh? In Life on the Screen, Sherry Turkle explores how the digital age fragments identity into multiple selves. On Facebook, one might present as a professional, on Instagram, as a lifestyle curator, on Reddit, as an anonymous thinker. Each identity is partial, yet together they form the constellation of our digital self. This multiplicity can be empowering, giving us freedom to explore aspects of our personality without judgment. But it can also be destabilizing, leaving us unsure of who we really are beneath the performances. The question arises, is the digital self simply one of many selves, or has it become the dominant self that defines us more than the physical? Psychologists have found that social media platforms exploit our brain's reward systems. Each notification, each like, triggers a dopamine response similar to gambling or addictive substances. This digital validation subtly shifts our sense of self-worth from intrinsic qualities to external approval. A photo with few likes may create feelings of rejection, while a viral post may inflate our confidence. In this way, the digital self is not just a reflection of who we are, but a self being actively shaped by algorithms designed to capture attention. Our online identity becomes both a product of our choices and of hidden systems influencing our behavior. The internet acts as a mirror, showing us how others perceive us through comments, likes, and reactions. But this mirror is far from neutral. It distorts and amplifies certain traits while diminishing others. For example, a witty comment may define someone's identity online more than years of kindness in the physical world. The digital self is thus shaped by the highlights, not the full story. Just as a carnival mirror stretches and warps our reflection, the online mirror reflects only fragments of our existence. To what extent, then, is our online identity a faithful portrait? And to what extent is it a caricature, magnified by algorithms and audiences? The promise of the digital self was connection. Social media allows us to speak across continents, to join communities of shared interest, to maintain ties that once would have been lost. Yet, paradoxically, studies from the American Psychological Association show that increased digital engagement often correlates with rising loneliness and depression. The digital self is hyperconnected but often disconnected, living among thousands of online acquaintances while lacking deep, embodied bonds. This raises the question, are we sacrificing authenticity and intimacy in exchange for reach and visibility? Is the digital self truly connecting us or simply simulating connection? In the physical world, memories fade, but the digital self leaves a permanent record. Tweets, posts, photos, and comments linger long after we forget them, creating an archive that may outlive our bodies. This permanence grants us a strange kind of digital immortality. But it also means our mistakes and missteps follow us indefinitely. Universities, employers, and even strangers can scroll back through years of digital artifacts, forming judgments about who we are. Unlike the body, the digital self cannot easily age, evolve, or heal. It becomes a fossilized version of our past, raising the question, does the permanence of the digital self help preserve identity or trap us in it? The digital self does not exist in a vacuum. Every click, search, and post is tracked, analyzed, and monetized by corporations. In this sense, our online identities are not entirely ours. They belong to the data economy. We are both the user and the product. Companies know our habits, desires, and fears with frightening accuracy, shaping what we see and how we think. This raises a disturbing philosophical question. If our online identity is owned and controlled by others, can it still be considered an authentic part of ourselves? Or have we become commodities in a marketplace of identities? With the rise of virtual reality and digital avatars, the digital self becomes even more radical. Entire worlds are built where bodies are optional and appearances are infinitely customizable. In the metaverse, one can live as a dragon, a celebrity, or a genderless being of pure light. These identities may never intersect with the physical world, yet they can carry deep meaning for those who inhabit them. The digital self is no longer just a reflection of the physical self. It can become an entirely new being, existing in parallel realities. This raises a profound question. Are these selves less real because they exist digitally, or are they equally authentic expressions of human imagination? The digital self is not morally neutral. It can harm others through cruelty, misinformation, and deception, but it can also uplift, inspire, and empower. The ethical question is, are we as responsible for our digital selves as we are for our physical actions? Philosophers of ethics argue that identity carries responsibility across contexts. If our online persona causes harm, we cannot simply claim it was just online. The digital self is us, another extension of our being, one that demands accountability. To deny this responsibility would be to fragment ourselves into pieces too small to govern. For those born into the digital era, the online self is not a secondary identity, but the primary space where identity is formed. Childhood photos are shared before one can speak. Teenagers explore identity in the gaze of digital audiences. Adults craft careers, relationships, and reputations that are inseparable from the internet. For many, the digital self is no longer separate from the physical. It is the self. This generational shift forces us to ask, are we evolving into a species whose truest being is digital, or are we in danger of losing something essentially human in the process? The future promises even more radical challenges to the digital self. Artificial intelligence can now generate realistic voices, faces, and personalities that mimic human identity. Deep fakes blur the line between truth and fabrication. Some companies promise digital immortality, recreating loved ones as chatbots or holograms after death. In such a world, the boundaries between the authentic self and the simulated self collapse entirely. The digital self may become less a reflection of who we are and more an autonomous entity that continues without us. This raises unsettling questions. Who owns the digital self? Where does the human end and the digital begin? To dive deeper, these resources offer profound insights into the digital self. Sherry Turkle's Life on the Screen and Alone Together explore how our identities evolve alongside technology, making them essential for anyone questioning authenticity in the digital age. Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation offers a provocative theory of hyperreality, explaining why digital images sometimes feel more real than life itself. Erving Goffman's The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life remains a timeless framework for understanding performance and identity, now magnified online. Podcasts like Your Undivided Attention and The Digital Human bring current discussions on tech and society directly to our ears, while the Ezra Klein Show explores the cultural and ethical impact of the internet. Finally, trusted sites like the Center for Humane Technology, Pew Research Center, and the American Psychological Association provide credible studies and frameworks to ground these ideas in evidence. Exploring these resources allows us not only to question, but to shape the future of our digital selves. As we conclude, we return to the question, is our online identity our true self? We've seen how the digital world offers freedom, expression, and new forms of connection. Yet we've also seen how it introduces fragmentation, performance, and alienation. The digital self is not simply an illusion, nor simply the truth. It is a negotiation between the two. Perhaps our task is not to choose one over the other, but to integrate them responsibly. So we leave you with questions. Does your online self align with your inner self? What parts of you are hidden and what parts are exaggerated? Could your digital self outlive you, becoming your most enduring identity? And finally, what responsibilities come with the power to shape who you are in a digital mirror? The answers may define not only our online lives, but the very meaning of identity in the 21st century.